Okay, so we are live. Good morning, guys. Welcome to our Wednesday morning practice. For those of you that have joined me on the mat this morning, and for anybody that's going to watch the recorded lesson later on, good whatever part of the day it is when you are tuning in. Okay, so I'm just going to come and just check to see if I have a few of you tuned in with me, and then I'll get down onto the mat. Okay, so I can see I have 2 viewers. Okay, so we'll get going and hopefully a few more will tune in as we go along. Okay, so come to lie on your mat, either with knees bent or legs long, whatever feels comfortable for you. And just take a moment to settle into your space. Begin to notice the breath and how you choose to breathe this morning. Is it through the nose or is it through the mouth? And if possible, breathe in through the nose and exhale either through the nose or the mouth. Begin to notice the quality of your breath. Notice if you're rushing or forcing it in any way. Allow your focus come rest in the space of the third eye, the little space between the 2 eyebrows. And each time as we breathe out, invite a quietening in this space. Invite yourself to move inward. Letting go of unnecessary activation from the forehead, down through the temples, and around each eye. Invite the jawbone to soften and the throat to relax. Across the fronts and the backs of the shoulders, and invite the head of each arm bone to melt towards the back of each shoulder socket. Invite the back of the rib cage to melt into the mat. And just noticing the size of the lower back arch and seeing is there any little bit of melting we can do here. Invite the tops of the thigh bones to melt into the hip sockets and the back of the pelvis to relax into the mat. If the legs are long, invite the backs of the legs. And if the knees are bent, invite the soles of the feet to melt into the mat. So our aim at this moment is to let go of as much unnecessary activation in the body as we possibly can. Continue to invite the third eye to soften with each out breath that we take. And see if you can begin to just elongate that out breath a little bit. So when you think that there's no out breath left, there's usually still a little bit more that we have. So over the course of the next few rounds of breath, just see if you can elongate the out breath just even a tiny bit. And then as we begin to breathe in once again, notice where do you feel that in-breath expand in the body? Is it just to the front, or can we sense into a sideways expansion and a backwards expansion down towards the mat? So we try to find our 360-degree breath, expanding in all directions as we breathe in, and then drawing up from the pelvic floor and lower abdomen as we breathe out. Nothing forced, just happening naturally with the breath. And the practice that we're going to do this morning is the same practice that I sent out in the audio, so that you can have a visual for it as well if needed. So take your time to come and roll onto one side. So you can choose which side you come to roll on. And whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to check in and see who I have with me. Great. So Mom, I see you're there, and Audrey and Isabel and Mary. I know there's a few more of you, but they're just the kind of little comments that I can see at the moment. So guys, thank you for joining me. So you'll need a cushion or a pillow or something to pop in and underneath the head. And you will come to lie on your side with the knees bent in our 90-90 position. So the knees are directly out from the hip socket and the ankles directly down from the knees. And if you were to have a little look down your body, you'd see your toes kind of peeping out somewhere there in front of you. All the joints are stacked, ankles, knees, hips and shoulders. And you can have the arms soft here in the beginning. You can have the elbows bent, whatever is comfortable for you. And just bring your focus to the breathing here as we lie on our side. And you might be able to tune into a little bit more of this lateral breathing when you come onto the side. And you might sense that in your top side waistline, as you breathe in, that this area expands. And then as you breathe out, it's really like we get this kind of narrowing between our armpit and our side of our hip. So just sensing into the breath just for a few rounds. And then the next time you breathe out, just go ahead and lift your top foot. The knees will stay together. And then slowly on the in-breath, bring that foot back down. So as we breathe out, the top foot lifts. And as we breathe in, we slowly lower it back down. Begin to sense into what does our thigh bone do as the foot lifts? What does it do as the foot lowers? And you might begin to notice as the foot lifts, our thigh bone kind of rolls down and in to what's called internal rotation, and then rolls back as we come back. You could sense into what's happening up in the hip joint. And what's happening in the side waist? Do you notice that that top hip hikes a little bit and shortens into the side waist as the foot lifts or not? And there's no right or wrong here. We're just noticing what we notice. And just do one or two more. And then come and rest. Go ahead and straighten your top leg out so it comes into line with your spine. And just rest the foot down on the floor for the moment. Take a nice in-breath to prepare, and as you breathe out now, lift the top foot again, but this time with a straight leg. And breathing in as you lower back down. Sensing into how this might feel different. Each time you bring the foot down, come to a complete rest before you begin again. The next time you lift, allow the foot to turn out so your toes point a little bit more upwards towards the ceiling. And then as we come back down, come down with a neutral foot. And sense into how does this feel different in the hip? Is it easier or is it harder to do it with this foot in a turned out position? And just do what feels easy. So don't think that you have to take the leg high or anything here. You can keep it really, really small. And then the next time we lift, see what would it be like to lift with the foot turned down. So your toes are pointing a little bit more towards the floor. And sense how this might feel different in the hip. And out of those 3 foot positions, you might have a preference to one. And if you do, just the next one that you do it with your preferred foot position. And then come and rest. Rebend that top knee. Allow it to rest on the underneath leg. So we've come back into our 90-90 position. You're now going to bring your attention to this top leg. And you're going to just begin to slide that top leg forward on the underneath leg. As if somebody was kind of drawing your thigh bone a little bit out of the hip socket. So your top knee will move just a little bit kind of straight ahead of you. And you might notice that your pelvis begins to rotate. Your headlights might begin to turn in the direction of a little bit downwards towards the floor. But again, this movement is minimal. And you can breathe out as the top leg slides forward. And breathe in as it comes back, or vice versa. See which you prefer. And just do what feels super, super easy for you to do. And let's see what would it be like to slow things down and use even less effort. Come to rest. So the only change that we're going to make to this movement is rather than sliding the top leg forward, we're going to slide it back. So breathing out now as the top leg begins to slide backwards, as if somebody was kind of pushing your thigh bone into the hip socket. And then breathe in as you come back and rest in center. So breathing out as we slide back. And breathing in as we come forward. And again, you can change that breath if you want. So just moving with as much ease in the body. And notice, are you unnecessarily gripping anywhere else? Check in with the jaw, the throat, the shoulders. It could be somewhere in the abdomen or the fingers or the toes. And as we begin to slide the leg back now, let's begin to open the knee. So a little bit like our clam, but we're allowing it to slide back with it. And breathing in as you come back down. So we begin to slide back and open the knee. So the feet will stay together, the foot doesn't lift. So as we slide back, the knee opens just a little. And then we come back into our start position. Begin to notice how much of you gets involved in this movement. Maybe other parts of you also roll back. And then we're going to put two little movements together. So we're going to slide the top knee forward again, and this time we're going to lift the top foot. And then somebody has just opened a door in my house and the alarm has gone off. So just excuse that for a moment. In the middle of our lovely relaxing mindful practice and live streaming, these things happen. So let's start with that again. Let's slide our top leg forward and lift the top foot, and then slide backwards and lift the knee. So as we slide forward, the foot lifts, and as we slide backwards, the knee lifts. And just do one or two more. And then come and rest. Take your bottom hand or your top hand, whatever is more comfortable for you. So I'm going to bring my bottom hand up and just place it on the side of my rib cage, kind of just a little bit in and underneath the armpit. And it's just really to sense into what happens in this area as we breathe. So as you breathe in, see, can you feel this expansion in those side ribs? And then as you breathe out, begin to think of bringing your armpit closer to your top hip. So we get this shortening and this closing in that top side waist. So as we breathe in, we get this nice opening, armpit and hip move away from each other. And as we breathe out, armpit and hip move towards each other. This might be as far as you want to go with this one. But if you want to take it a step more, you can reach your arm up and over the head and feed your hand in between your ear and your cushion. So now as we breathe in, breathing into that top side waist. And as we breathe out, think armpit towards hip, and maybe the head lifts away from your cushion or your block. And then breathing in as we come back down. So each time we breathe out, we're thinking armpit towards hip, head lightens, and then breathing in as we come back down. Let's put this movement with the lifting of our top foot. So as we breathe out now, top foot lifts, we think armpit towards hip, we get this shortening in our side waist. And then breathing in as we come back down and rest. And let's do this just 3 times more. And once more. And then come and rest for a moment. Straighten your top leg once again. straighten your top arm up and over the head, gluing the ear and the shoulder of that top arm to each other. We're only going to do this once or twice. So keeping the ear and the arm glued together. Breathe out, think armpit to hip, lift head, leg and arm. Breathe in as you come back down, and just once more. And then come to a complete rest. So take a moment here. We are going to transition onto our backs, and whichever leg you just had on top, that is going to be the leg that you have bent when you go onto your back. So maybe if you just want to pop your hand onto that leg now to remind yourself, and then slowly transition onto your back. You may want to get rid of your cushion here. I'm going to replace mine with my flat block, or if you have something that can bring your head down, or you can leave your head on your cushion if you want, so depending how you feel. So when you come onto your back, what was your top leg a moment is going to be your bent knee, and then you're going to straighten your opposite leg out. And we're going to move into our hip rolls. So as we breathe in, try to find that 360-degree breath. Press the foot into the floor. Begin to reach your knee away from you in the direction of out over your foot, and allow your pelvis to roll to your long leg side. And then breathing out as you melt back into your start position. So we should all be quite familiar with this movement. We do it a lot in practice. Breathing in, press the foot, reach the knee, let the pelvic weight turn to the long leg side, and then breathing out as you come back. Make this movement as easy as you possibly can. And just watch the knee of the standing foot, that it's going in the direction of straight out in front over your foot, and that it's not going left or right. So it's like somebody is kind of just drawing that thigh bone a little bit out of the hip socket as that pelvis turns as a result of this movement. And then breathing out as we come back. So the only change that we are going to make to this is it's going to be this exact same movement that you're doing with your pushing foot, your standing leg. But let's bend up our long leg now as well. And allow that knee to open out towards the floor beside you. And then we're going to continue with the exact same movement, just in this slightly new position. So we breathe out, we still press the same foot that we were pressing a moment ago, reach that knee away from us, and you'll still notice that your body weight begins to turn a little bit towards the side of where the long leg was a moment ago. You now have that leg in your new position. And once you've got the hang of that, you are going to take, so the same side that was your long leg side, the leg that's in your new position, you're going to bring that arm straight out along the floor beside you. So your arm will be perpendicular to the body, up at shoulder height. Your opposite hand, you're going to reach across your chest and place it on the front of that shoulder of the outreaching arm. And we are going to move into our bow and arrow. So as we breathe in, press the foot, reach the knee, but now begin to slide your fingertips along your arm as far that is comfortable for you to go. And then breathe out as you come back into your start position. So we breathe in, we press the foot, we reach the knee, we slide the fingertips, and maybe turn the head and look to where those fingertips are going to. And then breathing out as we come back. So it might take a couple of rounds just to get used to this new movement. Once you get a hang of it, as always, less effort. See if you can move a little bit slower. And just do what feels easy to do. And let's see, maybe for the next few, what would it be like to just do half of what you're doing? Just do 1 to 2 more. And then give all of that up and roll back onto your side. So the same side that you were on in the beginning, and pop your cushion back in and underneath your head if you had taken it out. So lining ourselves up again, we have our legs in our 90-90 position, ankles directly down from the knees, toes peeping out a little bit in front, all the joints are stacked, ankles, knees, hips and shoulders. This time, bring your arms straight out in front, hands closed, finger over finger. And slowly just begin to reach your top hand forward a little bit on the underneath hand. And then slowly begin to reach it back. So both arms will be straight, and we just begin to reach our top arm forward as if somebody was just kind of drawing our arm a little bit out of the shoulder socket. And then we begin to pull back with a straight arm. Begin to sense into what happens through these side ribs that are in contact with the mat. Can you feel the pressure changing on those side ribs as you just glide that top arm forwards and backwards? Breathing in whichever way is comfortable for you to breathe. So you might like to breathe in going one way and breathe out going the other, but you can choose. The next time we begin to slide the top arm back, begin to open it out into our chest stretch, just going as far that is comfortable for you. And then slowly begin to come back into your start position. So you can slide the top arm forward, and as you slide back, begin to open, keeping that top arm straight, allowing the rib cage to rotate open into our chest stretch. And then slowly coming back and just continuing with that in your own time. Just doing 1 to 2 more. See if you can make it a little bit easier on yourself. And the next time that you open, rather than opening all the way, just come to this kind of 90-degree angle where the fingers are pointing directly upwards towards the ceiling. And see what would it be like to reach those fingertips a little bit more towards the ceiling, and then slowly release. And how do we make this movement happen? Sense into what's happening in your shoulder blade, what's happening through the ribs. And each time you release, so I'm noticing I'm getting a little bit of a kind of a jerky movement on the way back down. So I know that I've got a little bit of holding in there. So I'm going to do a little bit less, make the movement a little bit smaller to see if I can just kind of iron out that kind of jerkiness. And once you begin to find the journey out of the movement a little bit smoother, you can then go and make it a little bit bigger. I'm using an inhalation to lift and an exhalation to try and smoothen out those jerky bits on the way down, which I'm finding difficult this morning. A lot of stress up around the shoulders these past few days. And maybe just do one more and then come down and have a little rest. And we're going to lift that top arm again, but this time have it a little bit out in front of you. So maybe kind of like about a 45-degree angle. And we're just going to play with rotation of the arm. So as I breathe out, I'm going to begin to turn the thumb down towards the floor and then the palm up towards the ceiling as I roll my arm bone into what's called internal rotation. And then as I breathe in, turn the other way. So as we breathe out, rolling the arm bone down and in. And as we breathe in, begin to externally rotate that arm. And then we can begin, as always, to do maybe a little bit less, use a little bit less effort, and work with your breath. And then come and give all of that up and come to lie on your back once again. And when you come to lie on your back, just sense into, does it feel different on one side of the body in comparison to the other? And quite often after doing this particular practice that we're doing this morning, it can feel quite different. So let's go ahead and do the other side. So if you're watching the camera along with this, you may want to bring yourself up to a seated position, bring your cushion to the other end of your mat and then come and lie down. Otherwise you can just roll over onto your opposite side. So you can decide on that, but just making sure that you have actually come onto your opposite side. And then let's bend our knees up in front again and lining ourselves up here to do all the same work on the opposite side. Once we're in position, you can go ahead, breathe out, lift the top foot, the knees stay together, and then breathing in as you come back down. Sensing into what does our thigh bone do? Sensing into what do we notice in that top hip? What do we notice in that top waistline? Continue to invite the third eye to soften. Allow the forehead to relax, the jaw to soften, and the throat to relax. The next time you bring the foot down, rest for a moment. And then let's straighten that top leg out so it's in line with the spine. Resting the foot on the floor. On your next out breath, lift the top leg. So we're now lifting a top straight leg and breathing in as we come and rest. And sense into how this might feel different in the hip. The next time you lift the leg, lift with a turned out foot and just sense into how the pelvis responds to this. Does it feel easier to lift with a turned out foot than it did with a neutral foot? Or maybe it feels harder. So just sensing into what do you notice? come and have a little rest. And then as you lift the next time, lift with a turned in foot, so where the toes kind of point a little bit down towards the floor. And sense into how this might feel different. Noticing if you have a preferred foot position out of the three. And if you do, just for your next repetition, just lift once with your preferred foot position. And then come and rest, rebend that top leg. So moving into our little slide forward in our rock back. So sliding the top leg forward on the underneath leg. So as if somebody was beginning to kind of draw your thigh bone out of the hip socket, and then move back into your start position. You can choose if you breathe in or breathe out as you do this. Maybe breathe in one way, breathe out as you go the other. And if you can remember from the opposite side, does it feel the same or does it feel different? And then go ahead and slide the top leg back as if somebody was pushing your thigh bone a little bit back into your hip socket. So now our top leg slides back on that bottom leg, and you'll probably notice that your pelvis rocks back a little bit with it. Maybe even more of you gets involved. Notice how far up the body do you feel this movement echo. As we slide back, begin to open the top knee a little bit. The feet will stay together, but the top knee opens. Again, notice how much of you gets involved in this movement. And if parts of you want to come along, allow them, don't block them. Adding in, sliding the top leg forward, lift the top foot. As the foot comes down, slide the top leg back and open the knee. As the knee comes down, we slide forward and the foot lifts. And just continuing now with this in your own time. Trying to make it easier all the time. And just do one or two more. And then come and rest. Taking either hand, I'm using the bottom hand up into the side ribs. And as you breathe in, expand into those top side ribs. Feel the distance between armpit and hip move away from each other. And as you breathe out, think of armpit and hip moving towards each other. And this might be where you stay, just focusing on this. But if you're comfortable to bring the top hand up and over the head now, and feed your hand in between the bottom ear and your cushion. Breathe in and expand into your top side waist, and as you breathe out, think armpit to hip, and the head will lighten its weight, and then breathe in as you come back down. So as we breathe out, armpit to hip, head lifts, and breathing in as we come back down. Let's put the two movements together as we breathe out, lift the head and the foot, shortening into our side waist. And then breathing in as we come back down, lengthen, lengthen, lengthen through that top side waist. Notice if this movement is the same as what it was on the opposite side, or is it easier, or maybe it's harder? So quite often we'll be different. And just do one more. And then as you come down, we're just going to do the next one once or twice, and you might want to leave it out completely. But if you're coming along, straighten your top leg out, reach your top arm up and overhead, glue the top ear and shoulder together, and just once or twice as we breathe out, we're going to lift head, leg, and then breathe in as you come back down. So as we breathe out, arm stays glued to the ear, we lift the arm, the head and the leg, and then we breathe in, come down and rest, and fold back in on yourself. So take your hand onto your top leg so you know which leg is going to be your bent knee and your pushing foot when you come onto your back. And slowly take your time to come onto your back and straighten out the opposite leg. So leg that we have our hand on, the one that we were just working with when we were on our side, is our bent knee. And we're ready to move into our pelvic rolls. Take a nice 360-degree breath. Press the standing foot, reach the knee and allow the pelvis to rotate. And then breathe out as you slowly come back into your start position. Relax the long leg. And just allow your weight to be rolled so the weight will lighten off the back of the buttock on the pressing side and pour towards that long leg side. Notice how far up the body do you feel this movement echo. Slowly, as you come back to center, you're going to be doing the exact same thing with your pushing foot, your bent knee side, but you're going to bend your opposite knee up and allow that leg to open out to the side, and then continue with the same movement. The leg that you have just taken into that new position, as you come back and rest this time, that same side arm, you're going to reach out to the side perpendicular to the body at shoulder height. Your pushing foot side, you're going to take that hand, reach it across your body, across your chest and onto the front of the shoulder of your long arm side. Bow and arrow. As we breathe in, press our standing foot, reach that knee away from us and begin to turn a little, sliding your fingertips along your long arm. And then breathing out as you come back. Allow the head to turn. Make this movement as easy as you possibly can. And just continuing with that in your own time. So just doing a few more here. As you come back to center, rest for a moment. And then take your time to slowly transition back onto your side. Rebend the knees up in front. Come into your 90-90 position and reach your arms straight out in front. Slowly begin to slide the top arm forwards and backwards, keeping the arms straight. Sliding the top hand forward on the underneath hand and then sliding it back. Sensing into what you feel through the side of your rib cage that's in contact with the mat. Breathing in one way, breathing out the other. You choose. Which way do you prefer to breathe? And the next time we slide back, continue and open that arm into your chest stretch. Slowly coming back. When you come down, hands touch, slide the top hand forward. As we slide back, we continue into our chest stretch, opening that top arm as far that is comfortable for us to open. Do 3 to 4 more. Continue to invite the mind to soften. And as you come back the next time, just open the arm once more, but this time stop with the fingertips pointed up towards the ceiling. If it's comfortable, you can look up towards the hand. And as we breathe in, think of reaching that arm a little bit out of the shoulder socket, and then breathe out as it releases and relaxes back in. Maybe if we feel a lot of jerkiness on the release, do less. Maybe even imagine the movement. The focus on that little reach on the in-breath, and a relaxation and a letting go on the out-breath. Just do one more, and then slowly come rest the arm down for a moment. Let's lift that top arm to about a 45-degree angle, so about halfway between where it was a moment ago on the floor. And as we breathe out, begin to rotate the arm bone down and in. And as we breathe in, begin to rotate the arm bone out. So we turn the thumb down and the palm goes upwards. And then we begin to turn the thumb back around and maybe the palm goes upwards again. So just rotating through both internal and external rotation of the arm, and maybe do a little bit less. And then give all of that up, and once again come and lie onto your back. when you come to lie onto your back, if it's comfortable, allow the legs to slide away from you. If not, leave the knees bent. Sense into how is the body meeting with the mat now. Has anything changed? Does it feel different? How's the breath? And allow the focus once again come rest in the space of the third eye. And just behind this point, visualize the brain, the front of the brain. Visualize all of the brain filling the skull. And visualize all of the brain now getting smaller and smaller and smaller, melting towards the back of the skull bone, allowing mental tension to melt away with it. Give yourself complete permission to surrender and let go into the arms of the mat underneath you. Allow yourself to let go, let go, let go. Begin to notice sounds around you and go searching for the most distant sound that you can find. Take a little bit of movement into the fingertips and toes. And just gradually begin to make that movement a little bit bigger. And just moving in whatever way the body prompts you to move. So you might feel like wiggling about a little bit. And then in a moment, we'll all hug in. One knee at a time comes into the chest. And just gently rock from side to side. Slowly take your time to roll onto one side and curl up into a little ball. Continue to observe the breath. Observe the quality of the mind. And just notice if anything came up or changed for you over the course of the practice. Slowly from here, take the top hand to the floor and just slowly bring yourself up to a seated position. So just taking a moment to settle into our seat. And once we find our seat, take a breath in, let the arms float up. And as we breathe out, hands come into prayer position to our heart center. And we finish our practice with the Namaste. So Namaste, guys. Thank you for those of you that joined me this morning. And feel free to follow this practice at any stage. It will be saved onto the platform. And yeah, we'll get used to it as we go along. So we'll have our little challenges. So I love the fact that my house alarm went off during the practice. Well done, guys. Chat soon.